The story begins on an ordinary day at a bustling international airport. The sun hangs high in a cloudless sky, casting sharp reflections off the polished fuselage of a commercial airliner, perhaps Oceanic Flight 815 or Pan Am Flight 914, names that would later become synonymous with the inexplicable. Passengers file through the gate, a mix of weary business travelers, excited vacationers, and families herding restless children. The crew, seasoned pilots and attentive flight attendants, go through their routines with practiced ease. Boarding proceeds without incident, the mundane chatter of travelers filling the cabin. Yet, beneath the surface of normalcy, there is a whisper of unease. Maybe it's the way one passenger, a man in a faded suit, stares blankly out the window, unresponsive when spoken to. Or perhaps it's a brief, static-laden exchange between the cockpit and air traffic control, a flicker of distortion that vanishes as quickly as it came. The flight attendants exchange glances but dismiss it. Flights have quirks, after all. The engines roar to life. The plane taxis smoothly down the runway, and without fanfare, it lifts into the sky. Below, the city shrinks into a grid of lights and shadows. The captain's voice crackles over the intercom, assuring everyone of clear skies ahead. Passengers settle in, some dozing, others flipping through magazines, a child giggling at cartoons on a tablet. For now, everything is routine, but this is the last moment anyone will remember as normal. Soon, the plane will vanish from radar. Soon, the world will forget it ever existed, until the day it comes back. The clock in the terminal ticks toward departure time as a sleek Boeing 777 glistens under the harsh fluorescent lights of Gate 37. The flight, designated Auriga Airlines Flight 828, is just another routine trip from New York to Los Angeles, one of hundreds that crisscross the continent daily. The boarding area hums with the usual pre-flight bustle, passengers scrolling through phones, a frazzled mother corralling twin toddlers, a businessman arguing softly into his Bluetooth headset. Nothing seems out of place. At the check-in counter, a veteran gate agent stamps boarding passes with mechanical efficiency, barely glancing at the names. One passenger, however, lingers just a second too long, an elderly woman in a dated floral dress, clutching a boarding pass that looks off. The ink is slightly smudged, the font subtly wrong. She meets the agent's eyes with an unsettling, knowing smile before vanishing into the jet bridge. The agent shakes it off, probably just tired. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere is thick with recycled air and muted conversations. Flight attendants move through their safety checks, their practiced smiles never slipping. In the cockpit, Captain Daniel Reyes and First Officer Lisa Carter run through the pre-flight checklist. Reyes, a former Air Force pilot with 2 decades of commercial experience, notes a brief flicker on the weather radar, a tiny blip, there and gone. He frowns, but dismisses it. Glitchy systems aren't uncommon. As the cabin doors seal with a pressurized hiss, a sudden silence falls over the plane. The usual background noise, the murmur of passengers, the rustle of seatbelts, seems muted, as if someone had turned down the volume on the world. A baby, moments ago wailing, goes quiet without warning. Outside, the sky is a perfect, cloudless blue. Then, just as the engines begin their takeoff roll, a voice crackles over the cockpit radio, a transmission that shouldn't be possible. Auriga 828. Do you copy? The voice is distorted, distant, as if coming from the bottom of the ocean. Reyes and Carter exchange glances. The control tower is silent on their end. Before either can respond, the static clears for a single chilling sentence. You are not cleared for departure. Then, silence. The plane lifts into the sky. No one on the ground notices anything unusual. No one realizes this is the last time Auriga 828 will be seen. Until it isn't. The hum of the engines is a steady white noise, lulling passengers into a false sense of security as the plane cruises at 36,000 feet. Somewhere over the Midwest, the cabin lights dim, and the soft glow of reading lamps and seatback screens creates pockets of warmth in the otherwise sterile environment. A flight attendant moves down the aisle with a drink cart, the clink of ice in plastic cups punctuating the quiet murmur of conversation. Captain Reyes checks the instrument panel, all green, no warnings. The autopilot handles the smooth flight with ease. Outside, the night sky is a vast, starless void, the plane's wing lights reflecting off a thin layer of clouds below. Then, without warning, the radio emits a burst of static. Auriga 828, this is Kansas City Center. Do you read? Reyes reaches for the mic. Kansas City, this is Auriga 828, loud and clear. Silence. Auriga 828, confirm your position. Reyes glances at the GPS. Level at 360, on course for... Another crackle. Then a voice, but not the controllers. Deeper. Warped. Turn back. The words hang in the air like a threat. The cockpit goes cold. First Officer Carter's fingers hover over the controls, her breath shallow. Say again? Reyes barks into the mic. No response. Then, nothing. The radio goes dead. Not just silent, but dead, as if the entire frequency has been wiped from existence. The transponder blinks out. The ADS-B screen flickers, then darkens. Outside, the stars vanish, swallowed by an unnatural blackness. The plane is flying blind. In the cabin, the passengers don't notice. Not yet. A man in 12B stirs in his sleep, sensing something wrong in his dreams. A woman by the window frowns at the glass, where her reflection no longer matches her movements. The flight attendant's cart rolls to a stop as the plane's interior lights flicker, once, twice, then stay dim. Back in the cockpit, Reyes flips through frequencies, but every channel is empty. No air traffic control, no other aircraft, just static. Then, the unthinkable. The engines wind down. Not a failure, not a stall. A slow, deliberate shutdown, as if something has reached out and turned them off. The plane glides silently through the night. No alarms sound, no warnings flash, just silence. And then, the sky opens up, and Auriga 828 is gone. The cabin of Auriga 828 hums with the steady rhythm of mid-flight normalcy. Somewhere over the Great Plains, the plane slices through the night sky at 37,000 feet, its passengers lulled by the white noise of engines and air circulation. In seat 14C, a businessman absently stirs his vodka tonic while scrolling through emails. 2 rows back, a child presses his nose against the window, mesmerized by the carpet of clouds glowing silver under the full moon. First Officer Carter completes another routine systems check. Fuel burn looks good, she remarks, her voice calm in the dim cockpit lighting. ETA right on schedule. Captain Reyes nods, rubbing his tired eyes. The flight has been utterly uneventful, exactly the kind of boring trip pilots hope for. Then the first anomaly appears, not on their instruments, not on radar, but in the air itself. A faint shimmer distorts the moonlight outside the windshield, like heat waves rising from desert asphalt. The phenomenon lasts mere seconds, but both pilots see it. Reyes leans forward, his forehead creasing. You see that? Before Carter can respond, the radio erupts with static. Not the usual crackle of atmospheric interference, but a guttural, almost mechanical distortion that makes their headsets vibrate painfully. Then, cutting through the noise, a transmission that freezes their blood. Turn back now. The voice is wrong. Not just distorted, but layered, as if multiple people are speaking in perfect unison. There's an unnatural cadence to the words, each syllable stretched just slightly too long. In the cabin, passengers begin shifting uncomfortably. No alarms have sounded, no seatbelt signs illuminated, yet an instinctive unease spreads through the aircraft. A woman in 22A suddenly gasps, dropping her book. "Did you feel that?" she whispers to her seatmate. "Like we dropped?" But the altimeter shows no change. The plane remains steady at cruising altitude. Yet outside, the stars have disappeared. Not obscured by clouds, simply gone, leaving only an endless black void. Back in the cockpit, warning lights flicker to life in erratic patterns. The TCS display shows conflicting altitude readings for their own aircraft. The navigation screen blinks between their correct position and coordinates somewhere over the Atlantic, an ocean they haven't approached. "Mayday, mayday!" Reyes barks into the radio, but the transmission cuts off mid-word. The entire comm system goes dark. Not just silent, powered off, despite the switches remaining in the on position. Then the temperature plummets. Frost spiders across the windshield in seconds. Carter's breath comes in visible puffs as she frantically works the controls. "I've got no response from any systems," she reports, her voice tight with controlled panic. Passengers begin murmuring as their exhaled breath becomes visible in the suddenly frigid cabin. A child starts crying. The flight attendants exchange frightened glances as their tablets and phones simultaneously die, screens going black despite full batteries. Outside, the darkness parts like a curtain, revealing nothing. No ground, no sky. Just an infinite gray expanse where the wing lights reflect back at impossible angles, creating the illusion the plane is flying through an endless mirror maze. The engines don't fail so much as fade. The roar diminishes not with a sputter, but a gradual quieting, as if someone is turning down the volume on reality itself. The plane continues gliding smoothly through the void, all instruments now dark, all systems unresponsive. In the eerie silence, a single sound emerges, a rhythmic knocking coming from inside the walls of the aircraft. 3 sharp taps, a pause, then 3 more. It moves slowly down the length of the cabin, as if something is walking inside the plane structure. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stops. The knocking ceases. The gray void outside the windows snaps back to normal night sky. The engines roar back to life. But when Reyes checks the clock, he realizes with dawning horror that 47 minutes have passed, time none of them remember losing. And when he looks back at the passenger cabin through the cockpit door's peephole, every single person is staring straight ahead, eyes wide, mouths slightly open, not moving, not breathing. The plane flies on into the night, carrying its catatonic passengers toward whatever fate awaits them when they finally, inevitably, land. Years vanish like smoke. The world moves on. Investigations stall. Memorials are held. Families grieve and slowly try to piece together lives shattered by the inexplicable loss of Auriga 828. Then, on a storm-choked night, air traffic controllers at a regional airport snap to attention as a ghost appears on their radar screens. The blip shouldn't exist. It has no transponder code, no flight plan. Yet there it is. A commercial airliner descending through thunderheads, its silhouette flickering in the lightning like a half-developed photograph. The controllers scramble, hailing the unidentified aircraft, but receive only silence in return. The plane doesn't respond. It simply exists, gliding toward the runway with eerie precision, as if guided by invisible hands. On the ground crew freeze as the aircraft's landing lights pierce the rain. The markings are unmistakable. Auriga 828, the flight that vanished without a trace. The tires screech against wet tarmac, a perfect landing despite the lack of communication. The engines wind down, and the plane rolls to a stop in eerie silence. No doors open, no stairs approach. The cabin windows are dark, reflecting the flashing emergency vehicles like dead, unblinking eyes. Airport security surrounds the aircraft, weapons drawn but unsure what they're aiming at. The silence is suffocating. No movement from within, no sound at all, save the rain drumming against the fuselage. When the first team finally breaches the door, their radios crackle with panicked, disjointed reports. There's no one. The seats are all, oh God, the smell. The plane is a tomb, not a soul on board. Yet the coffee in the galley cups is still warm. 5 years to the day after Auriga 828 vanished from radar screens, a storm rolls across the Midwest with unnatural fury. At Chicago O'Hare, air traffic controllers are battling the weather when a blip appears at the edge of their radar scope. No transponder, no flight number, just a spectral return moving against all established flight paths. Senior controller Mark Delaney leans closer to his screen as the unidentified track descends through 20,000 feet. United 142, do you have visual on traffic at your 11 o'clock? He asks, voice tight. The reply chills him. Negative, O'Hare. Nothing but rain out here. Yet the radar paints a clear picture, a large aircraft moving with purpose toward the airport. Delaney's blood turns to ice when the system suddenly tags it with a call sign, AUR 828, the same identifier used by the lost flight half a decade earlier. On the tarmac, ground crew supervisor Elena Gutierrez is directing a 787 to its gate when her radio erupts with panicked voices. She turns toward runway 27R just as lightning forks across the sky, illuminating the impossible. A twin-engine airliner touching down perfectly, despite no clearance being given. The aircraft's livery is faded, its fuselage streaked with strange, rust-like discoloration that seems to move in the rain. The control tower goes silent as the plane taxis under its own power toward an empty gate. No one gave it instructions. No one opened the gate. Yet the jetway extends with a hydraulic hiss, as if welcoming home a long-lost passenger. Federal agents arrive within minutes, sealing off the area. When they approach the aircraft, they find the door slightly ajar. No stairs, no movement, just a dark opening where the emergency slide has partially deployed, its yellow fabric streaked with something black and viscous that drips onto the tarmac with a sound like thick syrup. Inside, the cabin is frozen in time. Boarding passes from 2018 litter the floor. A child's tablet still plays a cartoon episode that hasn't aired in years. The galley carts are fully stocked with snacks and beverages no longer produced, but the seats tell a different story. While empty, each one bears deep, frenzied scratches in the armrests. The overhead bins hang slightly open, their contents undisturbed except for a fine layer of a strange, metallic-smelling dust that coats everything. Most disturbing of all is the cockpit. The door stands wide open, the pilot's seats empty. The windshield is covered on the inside with thousands of tiny fingerprints, as if countless hands had pressed against the glass from within the aircraft. The flight log shows the last entry, written in shaky handwriting that doesn't match either pilot's. They don't let you leave. Outside, the storm suddenly breaks. In the sudden quiet, the ground crew realizes the plane's engines are still running, have been running this whole time, though no sound has come from them since the moment it landed. The storm parts like a curtain as Auriga 828 completes its final approach, its landing lights cutting through the rain with an unnatural glow, too bright, too white, like the glare of an X-ray. The runway trembles as the wheels touch down, not with the usual shriek of rubber on asphalt, but with a hollow, muffled thud, as if the plane has landed on packed earth rather than tarmac. No reverse thrust engages, no spoilers rise to slow the aircraft, yet it decelerates perfectly, rolling to a stop exactly at the center line of the runway, as though guided by an unseen hand. The air traffic control tower erupts into chaos. Radios crackle with overlapping transmissions, but no one dares to approach the aircraft. The ground crew stands frozen, their breath fogging in the suddenly frigid air. The rain has stopped, not tapered off, but ceased in an instant, leaving behind an eerie silence broken only by the distant metallic ticking of the plane's cooling engines. Then, the cabin lights flicker on. Row by row, the windows illuminate, revealing silhouettes that shouldn't be there. Dark, indistinct figures sit motionless in every seat, their outlines blurred, as if viewed through frosted glass. No faces, no movement, just shadows where passengers once were. The emergency exit doors don't open, the slides don't deploy. Instead, the plane simply waits. A gust of wind carries the scent of ozone and something else, something organic and wet, like the inside of a long-sealed tomb. The ground crew's flashlights dance over the fuselage, revealing patches where the paint has peeled away in jagged strips, exposing metal beneath that isn't aluminum, but something darker, pitted with corrosion that spreads like veins. Then, a sound. From inside the plane comes a slow, deliberate knocking, 3 heavy impacts against the interior walls, spaced evenly apart. Then silence, then 3 more. The rhythm is methodical, patient, as if something is testing the barrier between itself and the outside world. The airport's emergency response team arrives in a convoy of flashing lights, but they keep their distance. No one approaches the stairs. No one reaches for the door. Because deep down, they all understand. This isn't a rescue operation. It's a containment. And the plane? The plane isn't empty. It's full, just not with anything human. The hazmat-suited SWAT team moves toward the aircraft like astronauts approaching an alien vessel, their boots crunching on the tarmac in unnaturally synchronized steps. The plane hums, not the mechanical thrum of idling engines, but a low, organic vibration that resonates in their chests like a second heartbeat. As the lead officer reaches the emergency door, it swings open on its own with a pneumatic hiss, exhaling air that smells of copper and damp soil. Inside, the cabin is a time capsule frozen mid-flight. Overhead, bins yawn open, revealing luggage untouched by decay. A half-eaten meal sits on a tray table, the food still steaming despite the years since departure. A child's stuffed bear lies abandoned in the aisle, its button eyes reflecting the flashlights in a way that makes the officers hesitate, because for a split second, those eyes seem to track their movement. But the seats, every single seatbelt is fastened. Not just buckled, but pulled taut, the fabric strained as if holding down invisible passengers fighting to get free. The seat backs bear deep gouges, not scratches, but desperate furrows carved by human nails, some still flecked with dried blood. The ceiling panels sag with the weight of something pressing down from above, their surfaces mottled with handprints that don't match any human proportions. The fingers too long, the palms too wide. The door hangs crooked on its hinges, its metal warped outward in a pattern of dents that suggests something was pounding to get in. Inside, the pilot's seats spin slowly in place, their harnesses shredded. The windshield is opaque, covered entirely by a thick, pulsating mold that reacts to their light, contracting like a pupil when illuminated. The black box lies shattered in the corner, its wires pulled out and braided into a grotesque symbol none of them recognize. When they pry open the stuck door, they find the mirror intact, except it doesn't reflect the officers standing there. Instead, it shows the cabin behind them filled with passengers. The hangar doors groan shut behind the investigation team, sealing Auriga 828 in a tomb of fluorescent lights and forensic tents. The air inside tastes metallic, like old blood and charged ozone clinging to the back of their throats. Every surface of the plane has been marked with numbered evidence tags, but the more they document, the less any of it makes sense. The flight data recorder yields nothing but 17 minutes of perfect flight, then pure silence. No mechanical failure, no loss of pressure, just the sudden, impossible absence of all sound, as if the plane had slipped between the cracks of reality itself. The cockpit voice recorder is worse, a looping 3-second clip of Captain Reyes whispering, "It's underneath us," before dissolving into a wet, crunching noise that makes the audio technicians physically recoil from their headphones. Passenger manifests show all seats accounted for, but the luggage tells a different story. Every suitcase contains identical items, folded clothes in the same shades of gray, toothbrushes still damp, dog-eared copies of the same obscure novel. No distinguishing features, no personal effects. As if the passengers were copies of copies, their individuality sanded away. Dr. Lien, the forensic specialist, makes the first unsettling discovery in the lavatory. The sink drain is clogged with clumps of dark hair, but DNA tests reveal it doesn't match any passenger or crew. When she shines a UV light on the mirror, hidden words appear in sticky, finger-traced letters. It watches when you sleep. The galley yields another mystery. The coffee pots are full, but the liquid inside isn't coffee. It's viscous, slightly magnetic, and when exposed to heat, it moves on its own, forming shapes that look disturbingly like faces screaming in slow motion. Most chilling of all are the windows. From the outside, they appear normal, but from within, each pane shows a different skyline, some recognizable cities, others impossibly twisted metropolises with architecture that hurts to look at for too long. One window reflects an alternate cabin where the passengers are still seated, their bodies fused to the seats by tendrils of blackened flesh. The investigation team works in shifts, but no one volunteers for the night watch. Those who've stayed late report hearing seat belts clicking undone in the empty cabin, footsteps pacing the aisle, and, once, a child's voice over the PA system reciting numbers in reverse. By the third day, half the team has quit. The remaining members develop identical symptoms: nosebleeds, sleepwalking episodes where they're found trying to open locked doors while whispering flight safety instructions in languages they've never spoken. The final clue is discovered by accident. A junior investigator bumps a seat back, causing the tray table to drop down. Etched into its surface are hundreds of tiny tally marks, not carved, but burned into the plastic by something impossibly hot. The last entry is different. A single word, written in shaky, desperate script. Already landed. As the team packs their equipment that night, they notice something new. The plane's shadow no longer matches its shape, and it's moving on its own. Auriga 828 is sealed in a classified hangar in the Nevada desert, surrounded by motion sensors and armed guards who rotate shifts every 3 hours. No one stays longer. The guards report hearing whispers through their comms at night, voices that aren't on the channel. Some quit after finding their patrol logs filled with entries they don't remember writing, pages and pages of the same phrase in jagged handwriting. It's learning our voices. The official reports are buried under layers of red tape and disinformation. The flight is labeled a tragic accident, the wreckage supposedly destroyed. But every few months, another piece of footage leaks. A grainy cell phone video of the plane's shadow moving independently, or an audio recording of the cockpit voice recorder that wasn't on the official transcript. The clips always vanish within hours, but not before spawning new waves of speculation. The families of the missing passengers form a support group that slowly morphs into something darker. They meet in church basements, sharing stories of strange occurrences since the disappearance, photos that change when no one's looking, children who draw the same unrecognizable aircraft over and over, phones that ring at 3:17 a.m. with nothing but static on the line. Some claim to have seen their loved ones in crowds, always from a distance, always boarding another plane. Aviation experts note a disturbing trend. Every year on the anniversary of the disappearance, air traffic control logs show brief, unexplained radar blips along Auriga 828's original flight path. The contacts last exactly 47 seconds, the same duration as the plane's initial disappearance, before vanishing again. Pilots who fly that route report instruments glitching, radios picking up fragments of a woman's voice reciting flight safety instructions in a language that doesn't exist. In a secret lab, scientists study samples taken from the aircraft. The black mold from the windshield? It's growing despite having no nutrients. The strange coffee in the galley? It's replicating itself at a geometric rate. Most disturbing are the seatbelt buckles, which forensic analysis shows were open from the inside over 9,000 times in the first month after recovery, despite the plane being under 24-hour surveillance. The internet's obsessed. Online forums track every scrap of information, connecting dots that might not exist. A popular theory suggests the plane didn't come back, that what landed was an imprint, a photograph made real, and the real Auriga 828 is still out there, flying through some impossible space between destinations. Others whisper about the 828 protocol, a rumored government contingency plan for when aircraft encounter non-terrestrial phenomena. At a roadside diner near the restricted hangar, a graying waitress serves coffee to the latest rotation of guards. She's seen them come and go for years. None ever talk about what they guard, but they all leave changed, paler, thinner, jumping at sudden noises. Tonight, as a storm rolls in, one young guard stares at his reflection in the black window and doesn't recognize his own face. Outside, the wind howls like a distant jet engine. Somewhere, a radar screen blips once before going dark. And in the desert, inside a locked hangar, a seatbelt buckle clicks open all by itself. The mystery never ends. It just takes on new shapes. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.